You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me, as sometimes you do. I want to talk about Monday Night Football really, really quickly. Some Tennessee fans did something to Nick Saban's statue, but don't worry, it was pure class and wildly hilarious. Also, I'm going to talk about UTC's kicker. The kicker. That's right. The kicker. We got kicker talk coming because it is about an interesting topic that I feel like is very undercovered in the world. So that's going to be something. And also Alabama talk. Though I don't know if you've noticed, I haven't really been getting into Alabama over the last few weeks. And I'll get into that also in a little bit. And of course, the return of Colin Kaepernick, which I cannot help. I can't help it. You can't blame me for wanting to cover that. You absolutely cannot blame me for that. It's the most interesting story in sports. But before I talk about all of those things, I like to talk to you about where you can find us. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are the best places to go. I highly recommend checking out our YouTube channel. We're streaming this show live, and all of them, by the way, every single day for always. Streaming every single one of them, just so you could see what it is that we look like and what our studio looks like. Just take a peek in behind the veil and see what it is that you're listening to. Also, I recommend checking out our website, Noogaradio.com. That's Noogaradio.com. We stream all of our programming 24/7. This show, the David Tulis show, Binary with Russell Stroud, our news director, America's Morning News, which he also does a fantastic job in, Sean Hannity, Colin Cowherd, coast to coast. Like, what else do you want? Also, all of the football every weekend. We have it all. And we've got Tennessee and Alabama for you here. It's going to be a fantastic game with a lot of ramifications, right? Like the best of the East versus the best of the West. And I have certain opinions about that game. We'll get into that as well. But also, I should mention the TuneIn Radio app. It's free in whatever app store you prefer. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the app, give us a favorite, press play, and then you'll have Hot News Talk Radio virtually everywhere you go. That's Hot News Talk Radio and the TuneIn Radio app. Listen like you mean it. So I want to talk about the Panthers because that game showed me something. The Panthers are officially hot garbage again, and that didn't take long, did it? I mean, I thought there would be a regression. Like Cam Newton, the year that he had last year, that kind of thing's not sustainable. And I know that Cam Newton is basically Greek Adonis walking around. He is physically the most powerful quarterback in the league, just from a physical standpoint. Cam Newton is what, 6'5", 6'6", 250 of muscle. Like, just running into that guy must be an absolute nightmare. But the way that Cam Newton ends up playing is not sustainable, especially when you consider a lot of other things about the Carolina Panthers. So I thought there was going to be some kind of regression. What I did not expect about the Carolina Panthers is that they would not just fall off, but that they would fall all the way off. Boy, did they fall all the way off. And last night, I got to see some things about the Panthers that we had not gotten to know about them this season, right? Like, we knew the defense was going to be bad. When you're starting a bunch of rookies at every position, you're going to have a bad time. The defense is bad. The secondary is bad. The pass rush is bad. You can't get anything out of Luke Kuechly. He's like the lone man on that defense, like the last man on earth, crying for help. There is nothing for that guy to do because everyone around him is horrible. It's like if you had a nightmare scenario where the only person who could like save the world was you. The world's in danger. You've seen it in movies. The world's in danger. And the only person who knows about it is the main character. And he tries to convince other people that the world is in danger and nobody believes him. It's like that. It's Luke Kuechly playing defense for the Carolina Panthers. He's trying to save the world, but nobody else is good enough to actually help him. Though, in fairness to that pass rush, I don't know if they are actually bad or if the secondary is so bad they never get a chance to get to quarterbacks because the people are really open downfield. This is what Jameis Winston learned last night. People are truly open downfield if you challenge Carolina secondary and don't wait. You know what I mean? Don't let the defense beat your O-line. Like 5-step drops is really all this takes. And not one of those guys is good enough to stop you. But we knew Carolina was bad at defense. Like this whole season has been just an exercise in Carolina failing to outscore opponents who are putting up numbers on them, right? Just dropping numbers all over them. So we knew that already. But then we learned a new thing about Carolina, which is that their offense is whack too. Their offense is also terrible. And not just kind of bad. It is truly offensive to watch. And because like last night, I mentioned Cam Newton's injury actually made that game an interesting prospect of a game to watch. And then you watch it and you realize I made a mistake in what I said because you had to watch Derek Anderson play football. And I didn't account for that. It did make the game more interesting. I actually think Carolina would have beaten them pretty badly had Cam been in the game, but Cam was not in the game. However, it doesn't matter because you had to sit down and watch Derek Anderson play quarterback or struggle to play quarterback. And it's offensive to watch. Like if I paid money to go see that game, I would ask for it back. And I get that the game. Look, I'm just saying, if I paid money for that game, I'd ask for it back. All right. But here's the thing. They still had a chance to win that game, which tells you everything you need to know about Tampa Bay as well. But Cam Newton has been covering up bad things in that Carolina offense this whole time. We knew Cam's O-line was not good, but they're terrible, bro. Terrible. And we knew they weren't good already. It's not like I gave them the benefit of the doubt. They're just worse than I could ever have imagined. Cam Newton was covering up so many holes. And I'll give you that offense has got Greg Olsen and Kelvin Benjamin. I'll give you that. But those guys can't throw the ball to themselves. And when you have Derek Anderson back there, who is definitely, as a replacement goes, below average for an NFL quarterback, you have a problem. You have a very, very big problem. And it's not like you were getting great games from Cam Newton. You got a couple of really good ones from Cam Newton, but it's not like you had any great games from him. But that's a lot for a team to overcome, is an offense that really isn't any good, a defense that's also not any good. And then on the goal line of all places, on the goal line, threw an interception. Derek Anderson threw an interception, trying to hit Greg Olsen on a fade, on a back shoulder throw that was neither back or directed at his shoulder. It really just went directly to Brent Grimes. Like just like if you just passed it to Brent Grimes. And Derek Anderson didn't try to look anywhere else with the football. And what makes the interception horrible is that it's first and goal on the 1 yard line. It's first and goal on the 1 yard line. You run that. Like that's everybody in the league knows you're going to run it. Unless you're the Patriots, you have Tom Brady and you don't have to run it. Everybody else in the league has to run it there. I don't care who you are. You run the ball there. How it is that Derek Anderson ended up throwing that interception in the first place is ridiculous, because it's not like we have a precedent or something for what to do in that situation. It's not like there wasn't a precedent set on one of the biggest games of the year. There was some guy named Marshawn Lynch who should have gotten the ball. Let's see. I think it was Russell Wilson throwing in. He made some guy named Malcolm Butler famous because he didn't run the ball. Oh, yeah. No, wait. No, we do have a precedent for what to do there in that position. Run the ball, man. And I can't for the life of me understand why like coaches just outthink themselves on this thing, I guess, because if I'm Derek Anderson, and I don't know exactly how much latitude Derek Anderson has to change plays, but if I hear in the headset that this is a passing play, I check it to a run. I check it to a run right there. I don't care if we don't gain any yards or if we lose 2. You run the ball when you are a yard away. That is power football. And I don't know if Ron Rivera is aware, but power football is the thing you play when A, it's windy and the ball's getting carried all over the place, and B, when your offense stinks. Power football is the one thing that you can do without skills. It's all about power. It's in the actual name. Nope. Nope. Panthers went ahead and threw that one and threw the game and their season right away. That's right. And their season right away. Because the Panthers out here were getting one definitely true fact about football, which is that you only have 16 games and you are 1-4, which means you would now have to win 5 out of your next 7 games just to be above 500. Just to be above it, you'd have to win the next 5 games, and your next 5 games are the Saints, which are going to make sure that your defense is nice and roasted. Your game is you're gonna have games against the Saints, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Packers, all in the upcoming weeks. None of these games are easy games for you. You are a bad football team. This is not about to be fun if you are a Panthers fan, is what I'm saying. You've got a slate of tough games coming around the corner. None of these things are gimme games. And also you got the Buccaneers again, who, if you dare to run out Derek Anderson one more time, can the Panthers come back from this? Yes. And I don't buy the Super Bowl curse thing. You play in the Super Bowl and you lose and suddenly you're a bad team. I understand that there are statistics that trend that way. But I should also point out that correlation does not equal causation, that just because Super Bowl losers tend to have a bad season the next season does not mean that losing the Super Bowl causes your next season to be a bad season. With that being said, it is fairly ridiculous the way that the Panthers have fallen apart here, because it looks bad on the outside. It's like a PR thing here. You didn't pay Josh Norman. You have a bunch of guys playing DB that are not any good. And people say, well, if you overpaid for Josh Norman, you'd only have a guy who could lock down one part of the field. It's more than what you're locking down right now. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me. Dak Prescott is kind of becoming the talk of the league because he's playing well enough. Dallas at 4-1. Dak Prescott, 4 games in a row, and he's got a nice number next to his name in the INT department. Dak Prescott's not making mistakes. Dak Prescott's not really turning the ball over. Dak Prescott is being smart with the football, and for a 3rd-round pick, you could not have asked for more. And so now the question is being raised, because Dak Prescott was supposed to be holding down the fort for Tony Romo. Should Dak Prescott do more than just hold down the fort? Should Dak Prescott just keep the fort? And I understand where the question's coming from, right? It's not a totally idiotic question. It is a completely reasonable question to ask. Should Dak Prescott just keep the fort? And you know what? No, Dak Prescott should not just keep the fort. Just because that question is not unreasonable doesn't mean that the answer to it is not obvious. It's a reasonable question to ask. The answer to the question is still very obvious, which is that Tony Romo is your better option at quarterback here, when healthy, when playing well. Now, I understand that you've got a quarterback controversy brewing, but you only have a quarterback controversy brewing because we don't know if Tony Romo could still finish the season from here. Like, Dak Prescott could take the reins back again. Last season, Romo got injured. He came back, and the instant he came back, he was re-injured. I mean, we've seen it happen already. Jerry Jones is trying to kill the quarterback controversy that's brewing, but the controversy is only brewing because Romo is the guy. And Romo's got two things working against him. One is a history of interceptions at wrong times, despite the fact that that stat is always overblown. Tony Romo's anti-clutch gene or whatever it is you want to call it, that's always overblown, right? He's got more fourth quarter comebacks than just about anybody during his time playing. And yet at the same time, we always remember Tony Romo as that guy's not clutch. Because he's thrown a number of back-breaking interceptions that you remember all of those. You can't easily forget all of that stuff. But that being said, the other thing that Tony Romo has working against him is his injury history, which is becoming rather lengthy the older that he gets. To the point where you can't help but think, doesn't Dak Prescott just give them the best chance to win by virtue of staying on the field? Yeah, he does. But if Tony Romo is able to be healthy, he's the better option at quarterback. Okay, and I'm not going to go down all of Tony Romo's stats for you and read them off to you. Okay, because I mean, compare them to Dak Prescott's stats, and Dak just hasn't been in the league long enough to mask those numbers. But I will say this about Tony Romo: he makes that offense really hum. Right now, Dak Prescott's still game managing. We're not asking Dak Prescott to make plays. We're not asking him to be a playmaker, put the ball all over the yard. He's still managing the game along. Very much so. And that's perfectly fine. People use the game manager label to be insulting. It is not. He is a rookie quarterback. I want my rookie quarterback to at least be able to manage games. Now, if he can come in and Andrew Luck it his first year, well, that's fine and fun. But Dak Prescott being able to manage games, there's nothing wrong with that at all, especially since the result is still W's every time. W's everywhere. So if you're getting the win, I'm cool with game manager. That defense is stout enough for Dallas. They're very good. And if you're Dak Prescott, could you not have landed in a better place? You've got a team that's pretty decently well built already. You've got a fantastic offensive line. They built that offensive line to protect the guy that actually got hurt. And so they could run the football. You just happen to be drafted here. Like, if you're Dak Prescott, the Cowboys are exactly the team you want to be on. I mean, look at poor Paxton Lynch. And Paxton Lynch doesn't have any idea what he's doing up there in Denver. Like, he's the other guy that got drafted to a great team. And he just doesn't know what to do. He's not the game manager kind of guy. Paxton Lynch has always been gunslinger. That's not going to change. It's just a matter now of is Paxton Lynch going to be good gunslinger? Is he going to have a season where the highs outweigh the lows, a la early Brett Favre? Because if you don't have that, then you just got a bad quarterback, right? But you look at where Jared Goff got drafted, right? Goff can't even get on the field because he's not ready yet. But even if he could, would you want to? Their O-line is terrible. Todd Gurley's having just an awful season, probably because the O-line is terrible. And outside of Tavon Austin, who the hell are you supposed to throw the ball to? Like, if you could get on the field as Jared Goff, do you want to? Right? Like, the Eagles situation's working out all right for Carson Wentz, but again, the Cowboys situation's just better. The O-line makes that better instantly. Like, if you're a quarterback and you got drafted and you're Jameis Winston or you're Marcus Mariota, wouldn't you rather have been in Dallas behind that offensive line? I couldn't think of a better place for a young quarterback to land. I'm telling you, nobody was watching those Mississippi State games, apparently, because I watched the games and I thought Dak Prescott was going to be a fantastic pro. Absolutely fantastic. And then I'm not surprised by what I'm seeing. Right? I also thought that Jared Goff was gonna work out. And I'm scared about that prediction, if not because Jared Goff can't play his way onto the field right now. Jared Goff legitimately cannot play his way onto the field right now. This is a problem. He cannot beat Case Keenum to get onto the field right now. And Case Keenum looks awful. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Why have I been avoiding talking about the Crimson Tide? I'll tell you next.
Hot News Talk 1240 AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, with your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 1, 2, 3 NASCAR contest. Hot News Talk 1240. All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guess it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. Diesel Off-Road Technology Sunny Daisy for your four-wheel drive and truck needs. Stuff and upholstery with premium rubber foam. Amigos Mexican Restaurant next to Staples and Hickson. Drink specials during the race. Cell Surgeon, the Broken Screen Doc. And Shooter's Supply, 4824 Hickson Pike in Hickson. Hot News Talk 1240. Enter your guesses now and listen to the race live to win $124 in cash and $124 in food from Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240. I love NASCAR. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis has the cash when you sell gold, silver, diamonds, rings, and jewelry. Sell Rick your precious metals today and lock in your price. Hey, Rick Davis will trade your cash for shiny, brilliant, and heavy gold. Gold cheaper now by $100 an ounce. Join the Rick Davis Silver Bonanza too. Price is so low, the Lone Ranger is bound to gallop in, Kimosabi. Hey-ho, silver, away! The markets are changing, so buy now. Cash, 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 and more cash for your silver and gold, gold, gold. Rick Davis, 5301 Brainerd Road. That's 5301 Brainerd Road. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Oh, and cash, cash, cash. You know where it is. Hey-ho, silver, away!
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Expect clear skies to continue through the nighttime, cooling in overnight, lows into the upper 40s. For the midweek, not much change. Still looking dry for the next several days. Afternoon highs through Thursday around 80. Lots of sunshine. Still looking mostly sunny through Friday. Satisfy your aviation thirst as the Air Force Thunderbirds rip up the skies over North Georgia. October 29th and 30th at the Wings Over North Georgia Air Show and Concert Series in Rome, Georgia. For tickets, wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. New details coming in on the man who was shot and killed on Wilder Street. His girlfriend managed to get away. Jimmy McCain, who's 33, was killed on scene by a hail of gunfire. And Christy Foster, who's 39, managed to drive herself to the hospital. No suspect information is available. Violent Crimes Bureau is investigating. A drive-by shooting occurred on Dodds Avenue Sunday night when two victims were driving down the street in their car. Another car pulled up next to them and opened fire. The two victims are now in the hospital being treated. In Bradley County, they're set to vote on whether or not to give wireless radios to Bradley County constables, but the debate has heated up after threats were apparently made from one constable to a county commissioner. The allegations say a threat was made by Constable Dwayne Hicks to the 6th District Commissioner Bobby Goines, saying he would release dirt on him if he didn't vote to buy the radios. One county commissioner noted that the constables do not have any direct supervision. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Like us on Facebook and get us on the TuneIn Radio app on your smartphone.
Martin Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Howard's around the outside. Michael McDowell pops a right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240. The voice of NASCAR.
I swear I'm not a coward. I'm not. Okay. But I have been ducking Alabama the last few weeks. And now I have to talk about it because they're playing Tennessee right here on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I actually cannot hide any longer from Alabama. Now, I've told you already before my opinion on Crimson Tide fan, which is that they are as unbearable as a root canal. They're about as fun, right? Like, because a Crimson Tide fan will let you know a thing or two about a thing or two. And I here's the thing, right? You have the right to. You can. Doesn't mean that you should. Just because you have the right to just be as arrogant and cocky as humanly possible doesn't mean that you should. Okay, yes, you're the defending national champions. Your team is once again good. I got it. Okay? I get it. But at the same time, what Alabama is going out there and doing to folks is not even nice. The reason why I've been talking about Alabama is I really don't have a whole lot to say about Alabama. What am I supposed to come on the air and say? Controversy is great to talk about. We'll get into Colin Kaepernick a little bit later, right? Controversy is great. When something is a little obscure, it causes conversation. When something isn't obvious, it causes conversation, right? So the whole Colin Kaepernick issue is causing conversation because it's not completely obvious what it is that he should be doing. Some people feel that he's being disrespectful by kneeling. Other people feel that he's not being disrespectful by kneeling. And so you have a controversy. So you have a conversation. So you have something to talk about. It's great. Tennessee, when Tennessee wins or Tennessee loses, always something to talk about. Because Tennessee makes every game the biggest game of the season. They can't win anything outright at all. They just have to come from behind to do this to you every week. But there's tons of controversy there. Like, why did they start so slow? How did they come back? There's plenty to talk about. Tennessee gives you something to talk about every single week, right? You had the controversy with LSU and Les Miles and how it is that Les Miles ended up being basically allowed to run an offense into the ground for so long. That's a conversation, right? Because it's not the most obvious thing on earth. We don't know why LSU's offense is so bad. And then the instant Les Miles left, it got good again. There's no explanation for any of that. None whatsoever. Then there's some stuff that's just obvious. That's just so obvious. Why do I have to come on the air and talk about it? One of those things is Alabama. What do you want me to talk about them every day? Like, what do you want me to say about that team every single day? They're good. Yeah, they'll probably win the national title again. Yeah, they're good. And I say this with the full presence of mind and knowledge of knowing that anybody can beat anybody, right? If you give any team time to scheme for Alabama, they could beat Alabama. And by that, I mean they could have the possibility to beat Alabama. And now Alabama's got to run the gauntlet because of where they are in the season, and their schedule is going to be pretty much tough from here on out. I mean, it was tough this past weekend, though, which is kind of my problem with talking about Alabama, which is that they dropped Arkansas like they weren't even there. Arkansas is a good football team, and Alabama ran through them. And they ran through them because they didn't throw a ton of passes. But I believe Jalen Hurts had 18, 19 passes. And still, somehow, he picked up 258 yards off of 18 pass attempts. I don't know how they're doing this. Like, that guy is legitimately a really good quarterback. And that team is legitimately the best team in the nation. Because I hate it when a team wins the national title and they just give them the number one ranking again just because you're the champ. You keep number one until somebody beats you, and then Alabama or whoever it is, like Ohio State, the year that Ohio State won the national title, the next year Ohio State played absolutely nobody, and they got to keep their number one ranking despite playing absolutely nobody until they got worked. Now, I don't want to say worked, but you know, they lost to Michigan. but like the deal is you just get that ranking just to have it. It's honorary. You don't earn it. You're the national champion from last year, so you're number one in the polls for this year. I hate that stuff. But legitimately, absolutely through and through, Alabama's earned it. And they're about to continue earning it. It's not that they're beating people by a lot. You expect that. It's how thoroughly they're dominating it, okay? And it looks terrible every single time. They walked through Arkansas like Arkansas was not a good team. And it's, you know, it's one of those things. It's just so hard to describe what it is that they're doing. Like you hear the jokes about how they're a factory. You hear the jokes about how they're a factory. They might actually be a college football factory. Because I don't know how you explain, like, what other explanation do you have for what this is? I don't know that really any of the teams left on their schedule are going to raise that much of a protest. I hope Tennessee does. But I don't know, Tennessee's defense, if you look at it in totality and not just, you know, the front seven, because Tennessee's front seven is pretty solid. We're not looking at a team that is leagues better than Arkansas defensively. They are better. But we're not looking at a team that's leagues better. And offensively, they struggle to get going too early, and Bama's defense is so boa constrictor. It's so suffocating. It kills whoever goes up against them. And I understand that Austin Allen threw for he was like 400 yards or something in that game. I get it. I really do. But that poor guy got beaten. Just got shoved around. I mean, they took his lunch money. They shoved his head in a toilet and gave him a swirly. They gave him a Nurple. they locked him in his own locker. I went to a high school that was old. They had the old lockers. You could fit a person in there. They had to be a small person, but you could fit a person in there. My freshman year of high school, I was 5'2". I'm not saying anybody tried to shove me in a locker. I'm just saying I would have fit if they wanted to. If they really, really wanted it to happen. That could have happened. Like if our high school were Revenge of the Nerds and Ogre found me because I was actually a nerd, I would have fit in that locker if he wanted me to. That's what they did to Austin Allen. Alabama wanted Austin Allen to fit in that locker. He fit in that locker. I mean, they beat that poor kid up. I don't even know, man. Like, if you're his parents, how did you sit down and finish watching that whole football game? They beat that poor kid up. And I'm looking at Alabama and going, I don't know if there's anybody left on their schedule who can beat them. And they have a tough schedule. I mean, they've got a tough schedule-ish. For the rest of the season, they've got mostly a tough schedule. They've already gone through the soft part of their schedule, and they look like the best team in college football. And not just because the schedule's soft. You remember Ohio State, when they play basically nobody, they had games where they struggled against nobody, too. And you're like, this team is not the best team in college football. They're winning all their games, but it doesn't look like the best team in college football. Yeah, we don't have those doubts about Alabama. This is about to be a very tough one for the Vols, who are basically legitimately the first big threat in the rough patch. I don't think that anybody seriously thought Arkansas could beat Alabama, but you had to give Arkansas a puncher's chance because that's a solid team. And Alabama walked through. Did not really throw their best punch in that game. Still dealing with injuries. I don't know how deep they go at running back, but they go pretty friggin' deep. I don't know how deep they go on the offensive line, but that's a pretty stout offensive line. Then when you add to the fact that when the offensive line gives up anything, which is not very often, Jalen Hurts can just get away. What is that? That's cheating. Somebody figured out the deal to give Alabama a running quarterback. A good running quarterback. You realize that that's the one thing they've never had, right? Alabama has just been winning championships on defense, running the football, offensive line, and pure want to. That's it. And they still looked brutal. Now, they've got a playmaker under center. How is that fair? Like, how on earth is that actually fair? That's why I've been ducking Alabama. What else do you want me to say about them? What do you want me to say? They're good. They're really good. I could have ended the segment there. Hey guys, Clutch with Keon Rose here. I want to talk about Alabama. They're good. That's it. That's the segment. They're the best team in college football. Because I talk about anybody could beat Alabama if you had time to prepare. Remember when USC had time to prepare and they got dropped like a sack of rocks? Do you remember that? Because that wasn't that long ago. That was like 6 weeks. 6 weeks ago, USC just got punched in the mouth. And that's a football team, by the way. I know what the losses look like, but I don't think that they're as bad as they look. I really don't. I think they've done a lot of underachieving. And sure, you could argue they may not be as well coached as they hoped they would be. But let's be honest here. They didn't just lose. They had all this time to prepare, and they didn't just lose by like 10 or 20 even. They got punched in the face to start the season. I remember being very excited about that matchup and then instantly not being excited about that matchup. That's one of those losses you know at the beginning of the game. Oh no, the Trojans are not about this life. They are not about this life. Alabama took them to the shed. And that's a team that I don't think is as bad as they look. I have a tough time trying to come up with like a serious breakdown of Alabama right now outside of they good. That's why I want to avoid them. I want good radio. I want brilliant discussion. I don't want to talk about cool stuff. I got to talk about Alabama, which you can listen to Tennessee, Alabama here on Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Got to be a fascinating game because Tennessee, you want to be handing Alabama its first loss. Because if you're Tennessee, there's no reason to believe that you don't have ideations on still making the college football playoff. Not only would beating Alabama go a long way towards that with regards to handing Alabama that loss, it would go a long way towards that in terms of this is your last hard game, really. Provided you don't just overlook all the other ones and get cocky and arrogant like you did against Appalachian State. Good. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Somebody did something to the Nick Saban statue, though, that I just thought was amazing, was just amazing. Nick Saban, the statue on the campus of the University of Alabama, has got Nick Saban, and he's clapping. But his hand is open just enough that you could slide a little Tennessee flag in there. And that, to me, is the perfect statue prank. Don't do anything stupid like deface it. Don't deface it. Just give Nick Saban a Tennessee flag. It's classy in its simplicity. The fact that it's not that hard to do. It's like we were talking about with the Panthers and the Buccaneers earlier. You're trying to overthink 1st and goal on the 1-yard line. His hand looks like he's holding something. Give him a Tennessee flag. Run it. Don't overthink this. Don't throw the interception. Just give him a flag. And in so doing, by the way, you made Nick Saban slightly less evil. I mean, because we are certain that Nick Saban is actually evil, though, right? Not just on like the stuff that I have blasted him about morally, but just like there's no way Nick Saban could basically run the Alabama empire, and it is an Alabama empire, without some level of being the villain in a movie. Nick Saban's the bad guy. I don't know if you've noticed yet, Alabama fans. You're not the good guys in this story. And I think you should just go ahead and own that, like the Yankees did for all those years, the New York Yankees. Cool with being the bad guys. You're not the good guys here. So to make Nick Saban only slightly less evil than he already is, you hand that man a Tennessee flag and look. He almost wanted to hug the statue. Almost. But I can't. Because I don't like Alabama. And I'll come out and say it. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's got a bias and I'm going to pretend to be completely objective. Alabama is not a team that I like. Okay, I remember the 2009 national championship game. I'm a Longhorn fan. We played Alabama. That did not go well for me that night. And all my Bama friends let me hear it. 4 months. Because could you do this with one single shred of dignity? Of course you can't. You're a Bama fan. I'm not a fan of your school, not a fan of your team, but I do acknowledge that team is so good. Because I'm not a blind person. So for the win, which is the amazing, fantastic super blog of USA Today, had a nice write-up on Enrique Ribeiro. And if you don't know who that is, shame on you. He's UTC's kicker. But what's interesting about Enrique Ribeiro is that he is not quite like most kickers that you tend to watch on TV. Enrique Ribeiro's a big guy. Very big guy. For you, he is 220 pounds. He's a 220-pound kicker. And people have let this man hear it. Just saying all kinds of stuff to him, like the article says that, you know, if you kick it hard enough, maybe you'll reach McDonald's and all of this stuff, right? Like, because the guy's a big guy kicking a football. Nobody makes fun of offensive linemen that way, but you expect the kicker to be, I don't know, kind of flexible and limber, as though you could not be flexible at 220 pounds, which he does mention that he keeps his flexibility up, which is why I can't kick a football, right? Like, I'm inflexible to the nth degree. I am 5'10". So is he. He outweighs me by some 60 pounds or something like that. Like, it is a very large number. 40 pounds. He outweighs me by 40 pounds. I can count, I promise. He outweighs me by 40 pounds or so. And this guy is out here kicking footballs, drilled a 52-yarder last week, came to America from Brazil to play soccer and instead wound up being UTC's kicker. And the guy is brilliant. The guy himself seems to be a nice guy. But one of the things I want to talk about is how men get put down for what it is that they look like and are shaped like. We talk about this happening with women all the time, right? Like women and body shaming. It's a big topic. I don't know if you've been around the internet, but it comes up quite often. A woman's weight. Donald Trump got into the whole thing with the former Miss Universe, I believe from '96, and how she gained weight. And that to me is something that's uncalled for and unnecessary. That's a woman, not a piece of meat. Doesn't matter what she weighs. Doesn't matter if she's gained weight. What is that? What is that to you? Right? And here's this guy kicking a football, and because he does not look like what you expect a kicker to look like, people feel like it is totally okay to just make fun of his weight. Let's make fun of him and his body. Because he doesn't look like what you think he should look like. And this happens to men fairly frequently. And we never talk about it because we men never want to talk about it. Men don't want to talk about stuff, typically, especially stuff that's got to do with feelings. But this is one of those things, too, where men really don't want to talk about it because it's something that we talk about being more about women. Like women have their bodies shamed. Men don't have their bodies shamed. Even though, when was the last time you watched a movie and the action hero looked anything like you? When was the last time? We have just as many expectations on men and what it is that their bodies ought to look like. And here's a guy that's just going out there doing his thing. First off, he's a great kicker. UTC's offense is highly explosive. And he's one of the reasons why. He's a fantastic kicker. And he is so accurate. And at the same time, that's not the story. The story is he's a 220-pound kicker. We don't talk about how brilliant he is making field goals. No. We're going to talk about his weight. And to me, that's incredibly unfair. But it's only unfair because we allow it to be unfair. We never get into the stuff about how men feel ashamed about what it is that they look like because of the way media portrays men. Like the same stuff that's happening to women is happening to men. The difference is we refuse to talk about it, and so it's going to keep on happening. We're not going to get this issue fixed. And I'm not saying make a big stink about it or complain about it. Because I can hear some of you already, yeah, be a man, get some thicker skin. When the media tells your child that they don't look good enough, you cannot grow thicker skin as a 6-year-old watching an action hero that you can't look like. Okay? You just can't. And I'm not saying that every action hero has to look like you, but it does affect the way that you view yourself. Of course it does. It would be impossible not to. So Enrique Ribeiro is a completely awesome guy. The way that he goes through it is he just puts his head down and he keeps on kicking. He keeps on making them. And it gets a little bit harder to talk trash when you're losing. The Mocs are 6-0. They are 1 win away from their best start in team history. 7-0 would be the best Mock start, and they play the Citadel this weekend. So that's going to be a big-time matchup for them. Big-time rivalry game, Southern Conference rivalry game. And I'm looking out for my man, Enrique Ribeiro. Man's a great kicker. Thank you for listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. I'll see you in 24 hours, but don't you go anywhere. Alex Jones is next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show.